Attention passionate Atlanta, Falcons fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the NFC South and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Atlanta Falcons' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Atlanta Falcons fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Atlanta, FALCONS FANS. Let's get to the news. Now, folks, the NFL offseason is always buzzing with rumors, speculations, and strategic moves. But this year, there's a particular storyline that's capturing the attention of Falcons fans across the globe. And trust me, it's not just another offseason rumor, it's a potential game changer. We're talking about the possibility of the Atlanta Falcons making a significant move to bolster their pass rush. A move that could redefine their defensive strategy, and quite possibly, their entire trajectory heading into the next NFL season. For those who have been following the Falcons closely, you know that one of the glaring needs this franchise has faced over the past few seasons is generating consistent pressure on opposing quarterbacks. It's no secret that in today's NFL, the ability to sack the quarterback is a crucial element for any team aspiring to contend for the Super Bowl. And if we look at the recent performances, the Falcons have struggled quite a bit in this department. Their pass rush has been inconsistent, often relying heavily on players who are not exactly household names or who are nearing the end of their careers. That's why the potential acquisition of a proven veteran, edge rusher, has become a hot topic among fans and analysts alike. And folks, there's a name that's been floating around that could be just what the doctor ordered: Trey Hendrickson, the Pro Bowl edge from the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, Hendrickson isn't just any player. Over the last 2 seasons, he's been a sack machine, racking up an incredible 17. 5 sacks in each of those years. That's right, 17. 5 sacks in back-to-back seasons. To put that in perspective, the entire Atlanta Falcons team managed to tally just 31 sacks in the 2024 season. So, Hendrickson's production more than doubles the Falcons' total. That's a staggering difference, and it highlights just how much of a difference a player like him could make on Atlanta's defense. But of course, the question is, could the Falcons actually pull it off? Would it make sense financially and strategically? Let's start by talking about Hendrickson's current situation. The guy is 30 years old, and he's entering what is likely his last big contract window. His current deal with Cincinnati has 1 year remaining, with a non-guaranteed salary of around $15.8 million. That's a substantial sum, but it's also a relatively manageable figure in NFL terms, especially for a player of his caliber. The interesting part is Hendrickson's recent comments about his contract situation. He's expressed some frustration about communication issues with Cincinnati's front office, specifically mentioning that he's been disappointed with how negotiations have played out and that he's looking for more security. Hendrickson is not just chasing money, he's after stability, a chance to build a future with a team that believes in him and can offer him a long-term deal. And that's where the Falcons come into the picture. They've been known for their savvy cap management in recent years, and while they're currently a little constrained financially, they do have some room to maneuver. With the potential to clear cap space in 2025, Atlanta could realistically fit Hendrickson's contract into their plans, especially if they're willing to negotiate a deal that's cap-friendly in the short term while giving Hendrickson the security he seeks. It's a classic case of a team with needs, a player with proven production, and a financial structure that could make it work. But let's be real for a moment. The Falcons aren't just looking for a 1-year fix. They're building a roster for the long haul, especially on defense, which has been a work in progress for quite some time. The team has spent recent drafts and free agency periods trying to find the right pieces, young, cost-controlled players who can develop into stars. Bringing in Hendrickson, while tempting, has to be weighed against the team's broader strategic goals. Do they want to spend big now on a veteran to fill a hole? Or do they prefer to develop their young talent, perhaps taking a flyer on a high-potential rookie in the upcoming draft, especially considering their high selection at number 15 overall? The Falcons' defensive line has shown flashes of promise, but it's clear that they lack a consistent, game-changing force on the edge. They have some talented players, no doubt, but the difference between a good defense and a dominant one often hinges on the pass rush. Hendrickson could be that difference maker, a player who not only provides immediate impact but also draws attention away from other defenders, creating opportunities for linebackers and secondary players to make plays. That being said, the team's current cap situation and draft strategy suggest that the timing might not be perfect right now. They need to be smart about how they allocate their resources, especially with other pressing needs on defense, such as linebacker depth, cornerback upgrades, and interior line reinforcement. It's also important to consider Hendrickson's age. At 30, he's at a point in his career where durability and longevity are key factors. While he's shown durability over the last couple of seasons, NFL players of his age do face increased injury risk, which can complicate long-term planning. The Falcons are no strangers to taking calculated risks on veteran players, but they also need to balance that with their youth movement and cap management. So while a trade for Hendrickson makes sense on paper, especially given the Falcons' need for a disruptive pass rusher, the logistics are a bit complicated. The Bengals, for instance, might be reluctant to part with a player who's been so productive, especially if they're in a playoff or Super Bowl window themselves. Plus, Hendrickson's price tag, both in terms of draft capital and salary, might be a hurdle. The Falcons may prefer to invest their resources elsewhere, perhaps focusing on their draft picks, especially considering their high selection at number 15, which can be used to select a promising edge rusher or another key defensive piece. Now, let's talk about the broader picture. The Falcons are in a bit of a transitional phase. They've got a promising quarterback in Desmond Ridder, who has shown flashes of brilliance but still needs development. The defense, as I mentioned, needs a spark, someone who can impose their will on the opposing offense and change the course of games. They are also rebuilding their identity after a few challenging seasons, aiming to become serious contenders again in the NFC South, a division that's been quite unpredictable lately. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the New Orleans Saints, and even the Carolina Panthers are all vying to dominate, but the Falcons have the talent and the draft capital to make a splash if they play their cards right. And speaking of the division, it's worth noting that the NFC South is in a state of flux. The Buccaneers are in a rebuild, the Saints are trying to find consistency, and the Panthers are developing their young core. The Falcons see this as an opportunity, especially if they can enhance their pass rush and improve their overall defensive performance. A player like Hendrickson, if acquired, could serve as a cornerstone piece, providing leadership and veteran presence while also delivering on-field production. But again, timing is everything. The Falcons need to weigh whether making a big splash now aligns with their long-term vision. Do they want to spend draft capital and cap space on a veteran that might only be around for a couple of seasons? Or would they prefer to continue developing their youth and look for cheap, high-upside players in the draft? The answer isn't straightforward, and it's a strategic decision that the front office will need to make carefully. And let's not forget about the fans. The Atlanta Falcons faithful have been waiting patiently for a return to the playoffs, let alone a Super Bowl appearance. The excitement around the team's recent drafts, coaching staff changes, and free agency signings shows that the organization is committed to building something sustainable. Adding a proven pass rusher like Hendrickson could be the missing piece, a catalyst that elevates the entire defense and helps the team take that critical step forward. But it's a balancing act, investing now versus building for the future. Looking ahead, the draft becomes even more interesting. With the Falcons holding a high pick at number 15, they have the opportunity to select a top-tier edge rusher or another impactful player to fill their defensive gaps. The draft class is deep in defensive talent, and Atlanta could find someone with high upside who can develop into a long-term solution. That approach aligns with their broader philosophy of building through the draft and maintaining flexibility in free agency. Of course, in the NFL, nothing is set in stone. Rumors will continue to swirl, and players like Hendrickson might find themselves on the move, or they might stay put and become key pieces for their current teams. But what's clear is that the Falcons are eyeing that next step, and bolstering their pass rush remains a top priority. Whether through a trade, free agency, or the draft, they understand that to compete with the best, they need to get after the quarterback more consistently, more aggressively. So in conclusion, Falcons fans, This offseason is shaping up to be one of the most intriguing in recent memory. The possibility of landing a player like Trey Hendrickson is exciting, but it also raises questions about timing, costs, and long-term planning. Will the Falcons pull the trigger on a trade? Will they invest in their draft or go after a veteran free agent? All these decisions will define their trajectory in the NFC South and their quest for a Super Bowl. The team has the pieces, the talent, and the drive, but they need that extra spark, that game-changing edge rusher, to push them over the top. And now, Atlanta Falcons fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Do you think the team should go all in for Hendrickson, or do you believe they're better off developing their young talent and saving their cap space for future moves? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Falcons. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Atlanta Falcons news. We're in this together, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for our beloved team.